Welcome back. We've been following events in Zimbabwe in the aftermath of Wednesday's violence. And then, of course, last night, the results announced, controversial because the MDC leading an opposition alliance, rejecting them completely. Let's go live to Peter Ndoro, who's on the streets of Harare. Peter, before you talk to your guest, just give us a sense of, I guess, the mood 2 days after police opened fire with live ammunition.
Well, it's interesting. You know, Zimbabweans are those kinds of people that kind of just get up and get on with it. And if you were looking around the streets today, you wouldn't have known that there's been an election that's taken place. And of course, those tragic events that took place on Wednesday, they just literally just dust off and get on with it. And that's really been the sense that I've seen during the course of today. Everybody back to normal, getting on with life as they had before. Perhaps digesting the results and wondering if their candidate lost, what happened, and jubilating if their candidate had won. But there were no scenes of celebration on the streets. There were no scenes of people dancing around and being happy. As I said, it just seemed like an ordinary day. But it was quite a day today. It was a tale of 2 press conferences, a police action, and a police apology at the end of it. So it started with, as you said, Nelson Chamisa trying to hold his press conference. The police came in, shut it down. They said that they had intelligence that something violent might have happened and that it was political. They then got a call, it seems, from the minister and withdrew. Press conference went on. Nelson Chamisa says we were cheated, we won, and we're going to prove it using the necessary means. In between the press conference that followed with President Mnangagwa, the police issued a statement and they said they're really sorry for the inconvenience caused and they recognize the need for press freedom and media freedom. And then President Mnangagwa again holding out an olive branch to Nelson Chamisa, saying politics is over, it's time now to build a nation. So a remarkable day, but one person who understands the machinations of the politics in this country is veteran journalist, author, and himself also a one-time politician, Geoff Nyarota. He joins me now. Thanks very much for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, so it's been quite an election process. Right up until Wednesday, everybody was surprised, I guess, given what's been happening in previous years, how calm, how peaceful the whole process had been. And then Wednesday happened. I just want you to take us through your overall impressions as we've come to the near conclusion of this year's election process.
You're quite right, Peter. This election was remarkable in that it was a departure from our experiences in previous elections going back to 1980. Most people were really amazed, impressed with the peace that prevailed. There was a sense that it was a free election, fairly fair, I would say. And in my opinion, it was credible all the way to July 30. The press did a good job of coverage. I'm talking here of the media, the Zimbabwe media. And their ranks were reinforced by the hordes of you foreign journalists. And everybody was quite happy with the whole process.
So where did it go wrong?
Everybody was happy with the process up to and into the election itself on Monday. Tuesday, I must say I didn't see any celebration because the results were not yet out. And then on Wednesday, all of a sudden, all hell literally broke loose in downtown Harare here. I must say I was not in this part of town myself, but I saw on TV what happened. And everybody started to ask, but what happened? Now, My own view is that the violence was not spontaneous, in the sense that people did not suddenly think that each individual wanted to go on the street to demonstrate against something, whatever it was. But it seems to have been premeditated by some party.
So Nelson Chamisa is saying that it wasn't his party, it wasn't his party members, and you ran as an MDC candidate at one point. Could there be some truth that maybe this group was infiltrated?
I've not entertained that thought. My own view is that what happened on Wednesday was the outcome of a process that started about 3-4 weeks before the election itself. This was a process that encompassed pronouncements or utterances by politicians, Chamisa himself, unfortunately, included, at MDC rallies and at press conferences, where it was publicly stated that unless the MDC emerged victorious, unless Chamisa won the election. This was
Is this enough to incite, though?
This was repeated, and people were amazed that this was being said.
All right. We're starting to run out of time. There's a couple of other things I'd like to ask you. First, you've lived through the best and the worst of times. ZANU-PF has gone through phases, some very, very bad. At the beginning, some would say excellent. What phase are we in now with ZANU-PF? And
my own view, my own assessment is that the ZANU-PF of Emmerson Mnangagwa, the current ZANU-PF that has just won the election, although that victory is now challenged, is a complete departure from the ZANU-PF of Robert Mugabe, which would be expected. Mugabe was thrown out by his own party, ZANU-PF, of course, with the assistance of the opposition, for reasons that Mnangagwa, as the new leader, would be foolish not to depart from.
You know what, unfortunately we've run out of time, but what I do know and what I can tell our viewers is that you've written a book called The Graceless Fall of Robert Mugabe, The End of a Dictatorship, and I think a lot of what he was about to tell us is contained in that book. It's out now in your bookshops if you want to get hold of that. Geoff Nyarota, thanks very much for talking to us, and we'll have to hand back to Johannesburg.
Thank you very much. Peter Ndoro reporting live from Harare tonight.